After 17 years of sacrificing evenings with my sick daughter, my boss fired me for not working weekends. What she didn't know was I'd been recording every word as she called men like me dead weight that needs trimming. The look of pure terror when the board heard her admit to targeting fathers over 40 was just the beginning of her nightmare. Have you ever watched someone who destroyed your life crumble before your very eyes? The taste of betrayal cuts deeper when you're watching your 5-year-old daughter struggle with her breathing treatments. My promotion letter to sales director had been sitting on my desk since Monday. 17 years of 80-hour weeks, missed school plays, and cold dinners finally paying off. By Friday, that letter had been shredded, replaced by Jessica Palmer's smug smile as she arranged herself behind what should have been my desk. "David, we need to discuss your weekend availability," Jessica announced, her Louboutin heels clicking against the conference table that held my client acquisition reports. At 28, she had that MBA arrogance that mistakes youth for wisdom. 2 decades, my junior with 0 real-world sales experience, promoted straight from the accelerated leadership program. My hands trembled slightly as I gripped my coffee mug. My schedule's been consistent for 17 years, Monday through Friday, available for true emergencies. That worked under the old guard. Jessica's smile never wavered, cold as winter. I'm implementing mandatory weekend strategies to revitalize our declining performance. Declining? The quarterly report showed our team exceeding targets by 19%. We just closed the Morrison deal, biggest in company history. Numbers can be creative, she dismissed, waving her manicured hand. The board wants fresh energy, not outdated tactics from the dial-up era. The real message hung between us like a knife. At 47, I represented everything she was hired to eliminate. My promotion had been announced when CEO Robert Mitchell still led the company, before his mysterious early retirement and the arrival of new management led by Jessica. "Weekend work starts tomorrow," she continued, sliding papers across the glass. 9 to 7, both days. Entire sales team participates. My throat constricted. My daughter. She has respiratory therapy every Saturday. The doctors say missing sessions could set her back months. Personal complications require personal solutions, Jessica replied, examining her reflection in her phone screen. Leadership positions demand sacrifice. The trap was elegant in its cruelty. Create impossible demands that force resignation, avoiding the severance package a direct firing would require. What Jessica didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd seen this coming weeks ago. The hushed conversations that stopped when I entered rooms. The younger reps suddenly dining with executives. The strategy meetings with accidentally deleted calendar invites. I've been documenting everything. "I need your decision by 5, Jessica said, standing to leave. "Oh, and we're reassigning the Blackstone Industries account. Time for some fresh perspective on our biggest client, the Blackstone account." 14 years building that relationship. Their CEO called my direct line when deals needed closing, not our main number. They specifically requested me in their renewal contract, I said carefully. Jessica's grin widened. Contracts evolve. I'm meeting with them tomorrow. As she left, my phone buzzed calendar alert for 4 p.m. with HR and legal. Subject line, separation discussion. They weren't even pretending anymore. I opened my desk drawer, removing the recording device I'd carried for 3 weeks since the new leadership began their purge. Illinois was a one-party consent state. Jessica had never bothered checking that detail. My computer pinged with an email from Marcus Blackstone. Hearing concerning rumors. Call immediately. Another message from Tommy, my most loyal team member. Emergency meeting junior staff only. Something big happening. The desk phone rang Robert Mitchell himself, calling from his forced retirement. "David," his voice was barely a whisper. "Don't sign anything. I've got intel about what's really happening with the board coup. Meet me at Lincoln Park in 1 hour." I gathered my personal items, knowing I'd never return to this desk. Whatever game Jessica was playing, she'd catastrophically underestimated her opponent. I slipped the recorder into my jacket and headed for the elevator, already planning my counterstrike. 17 years of sales had taught me one truth. The customer who seems most interested is often preparing to walk away. And I was about to demonstrate exactly what walking away looked like. What Jessica didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd never been one to go quietly. "They're calling it strategic optimization to the team." Tommy's voice crackled through my car speakers as I parked near the lake where Robert waited. His words came fast, stressed. Jessica told us you're accepting early retirement due to performance concerns and resistance to innovation. The March wind cut through my jacket as I spotted Robert on a bench overlooking the water. How'd the team react? Complete shock. Half of them looked terrified they're next, especially anyone over 35. Send me everything she's documenting in writing, I instructed, walking toward my former CEO. And Tommy, record everything. One-party consent applies to you too. Robert Mitchell had aged a decade in the 3 months since being forced out. His usually crisp suit hung loose, but his eyes still held the fire that had built Apex Solutions from a startup into an industry giant. It's not just restructuring, he said without preamble, handing me a thick folder. They're executing a corporate raid disguised as modernization. Jessica isn't just targeting your position, she's systematically removing anyone with institutional knowledge who might expose their real plan. The documents revealed the strategy: eliminate experienced sales staff, replace with cheaper junior talent, artificially inflate short-term profits through cost-cutting, then sell Apex to a private equity firm waiting in the shadows. Why me first? I asked. There are senior VPs with bigger territories. Because you document everything. Lawyers hate that, Robert smiled grimly. And because you have client relationships deep enough to derail their timeline. My phone buzzed text from Marcus at Blackstone. Jessica postponed our quarterly review, claiming strategy development requires 3-week delay. What's happening over there? I showed Robert the message. They're cutting clients off from existing relationships. Exactly. By the time clients realize what's happening, the sale will be complete. I played the recording of Jessica's dismissal, her veiled threats about my daughter's therapy appointments. Robert's face darkened as he listened. Classic constructive dismissal. They're betting you'll quit rather than risk your daughter's treatment. They've miscalculated, I said, forwarding the recording to my personal account. I'm not quitting. Robert's expression turned grim. They've scheduled your termination for Monday morning. Paperwork's already prepared. My stomach dropped. How do you know? I still have allies on the Bordones who oppose the takeover. They're feeding me information, but they're outnumbered. The afternoon sun cast long shadows as we planned. By sunset, I had a clear battle strategy. It's dangerous, Robert warned. You could burn bridges across the industry. Some bridges deserve to burn, I replied, thinking of my daughter's medical bills and the team members who would follow me into unemployment if Jessica succeeded. These people only understand consequences. Sunday passed in a blur of preparation. I downloaded every performance metric showing our team's success. I cataloged every slight and exclusion since Jessica arrived. Most importantly, I called our 5 largest clients. By Monday morning at 7:08 a.m., my phone began ringing Jessica's number. I let it go to voicemail. Second call at 7:19, then 7:33, then 7:51, finally a text. Meeting canceled, call me now. I smiled, pouring coffee while my daughter giggled at cartoons. For the first time in 17 years, I wasn't rushing to the office on Monday morning. The simple pleasure of shared breakfast felt like luxury. At 8:45, a text from Tommy. Complete chaos. Blackstone CEO in Jessica's office right now, shouting audible through walls. HR director looks like she's having a panic attack. Another text from unknown number. This is Margaret from the board. We need to discuss some serious allegations. Available this afternoon? The phone rang again, Paula from HR, voice shaking. David, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. The separation paperwork was drafted without proper authorization. Can we meet to resolve this? I sipped my coffee slowly. I'm unavailable today. Family commitment that can't be moved. Perhaps tomorrow? Jessica's been trying to reach you urgently, she pressed. I'm sure she has, I replied calmly, especially after Blackstone, Sterling Corp, and Megatech all threatened to pull their accounts this morning. Sharp intake of breath. You've contacted the clients? They contacted me actually. Seems they were quite concerned about sudden changes to their account management without consultation. The doorbell rang courier delivering an envelope from Robert's attorney. Inside were documents revealing the planned acquisition with projected efficiency improvements, meaning layoffs of 50% of experienced staff. I'll be available for a meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. I told Paula. I'll be bringing my attorney. And Paula, Tell Jessica to prepare explanations for why 5 major clients are threatening to leave simultaneously. After hanging up, another text from Tommy with an attached photo of Jessica pacing her office, face flushed red. She's blaming you for industrial sabotage and stealing proprietary client data. What did you do? I smiled, watching my daughter proudly show me her drawing of our family. For 17 years, I'd missed these moments building Apex's empire. Just leveled the playing field, I replied to Tommy. Save any emails where she makes those accusations. They'll be useful tomorrow. My phone lit up Margaret from the board calling directly. David, her voice carried the weight of serious decisions. I've reviewed some deeply troubling information about recent management practices. The board is holding an emergency session at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Your presence is requested. The final piece clicking into place. I'll be there, I promised, and I'll bring evidence you'll want to see. As I hung up, Jessica's 7th call of the morning lit up my screen. This time, I answered. David, her voice had lost all its arrogant polish, replaced by barely controlled panic. We need to discuss the client situation immediately. Yes, I agreed pleasantly. Tomorrow at the board meeting will be perfect. The sharp intake told me everything. She hadn't known about the board summons. What exactly did you tell them? She demanded. Nothing they couldn't verify themselves, I replied. Though your recorded comments about outdated tactics from the dial-up era and managing personal complications regarding my daughter's medical needs made quite an impression. The silence stretched until I wondered if she'd hung up. You recorded our conversations? She finally managed. Illinois is a one-party consent state, Jessica. Perhaps Harvard Business School covered that after you left. The sound of something shattering came through the phone. You've made a catastrophic mistake, she hissed. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I thought of the evidence in my possession, the client relationships I'd built over 17 years, and my daughter counting on someone to stop the coming purge. Actually, Jessica, I replied calmly, I think that's exactly what you're about to find out. Margaret Davison's corner office felt like entering a war room. The massive mahogany table dominated the space, surrounded by 6 stern-faced board members. Company legal counsel shuffled documents nervously. Paula from HR twisted her pen like a lifeline. And there sat Jessica, her usual confidence replaced by something Farala-cornered predator deciding between fight or flight. Mr. Chen, thank you for joining us on short notice, Margaret began, her voice carrying the weight of 25 years building this company. Her slight tremor as she adjusted her reading glasses was the only crack in her armor. We've convened because serious questions have emerged about the circumstances surrounding your departure. Jessica immediately leaned forward. This is completely unnecessary. We had a simple disagreement about weekend work expectations and company direction. David chose to leave rather than embrace necessary changes. The way she said my name like spoiled food made my jaw clench, but I kept my expression neutral. Years of high-stakes sales negotiations had taught me the power of appearing unshakable. That's one interpretation, Margaret replied, her tone dropping 10 degrees. However, Mr. Chen has provided documentation suggesting a radically different narrative, one that raises serious questions about age discrimination and targeted harassment of our most experienced personnel. I placed my leather folder on the table, 3 months of evidence weighing heavy inside. Since Jessica joined Apex 11 weeks ago, 6 employees with over 10 years experience have either resigned or been terminated. All were over 40. All were replaced with significantly younger, less experienced individuals at 60% of the previous salary. The board members exchanged troubled glances. I continued, pulse pounding but voice steady. This wasn't about weekend productivity. This was about manufacturing impossible conditions to force out experienced staff who knew too much and cost too much. I pulled out the first document. This email from Jessica to the CFO details her strategy to modernize the talent pipeline by establishing performance standards that will naturally accelerate turnover among legacy employees. Jessica's face darkened. That email was confidential company business. How did you? It was accidentally CC'd on a department-wide thread in your 3rd week, I interrupted. I wasn't the only one who received it. Board member Richard Sterling leaned forward. Legal, is this document admissible as evidence? The attorney nodded grimly. Sent through company servers to multiple recipients. no expectation of privacy. I systematically presented my evidence, the mysteriously altered performance metrics showing my team suddenly underperforming after years of success. Recordings of Jessica telling younger employees that some people lacked the flexibility to adapt. Data proving my strategies had increased sales by 28% despite her claims of failure. Most damning, I said, pulling out my final piece, this audio recording from last week. Jessica's voice filled the room. We need to eliminate Chen and the other dinosaurs. Find whatever leverage weekend demands. Impossible quotas, whatever works. Severance costs less than keeping them with their inflated salaries and benefits. Make it look like performance issues. The silence that followed was deafening. Jessica lunged forward. That's completely out of context. You can't possibly. One-party consent state, I replied quietly. Perfectly legal to record conversations I participate in. Margaret's expression had transformed from concerned to furious. Would you care to explain this, Jessica? It's obviously been manipulated, she sputtered, looking desperately around the room for support. Finding none, her strategy shifted. Look, everyone knows companies must evolve. The older workforce is expensive and resistant to innovation. I was brought in to make tough decisions. Tough decisions, Margaret repeated slowly. Like alienating Blackstone Industries? They've been our anchor client for 14 years. Jessica's jaw tightened. No client leaves over one employee. They're posturing. The boardroom door burst open. My breath caught as Marcus Blackstone strode in, 3 of his executives flanking him. Wrong, Marcus announced, his usually warm demeanor stone cold. We absolutely leave when that employee understood our business better than we did ourselves and earned our trust over 14 years. He slammed a document on the table. Contract termination notice, effective immediately unless David returns to manage our account. Chaos erupted, hushed, whispers, frantic note-taking, board members huddling together. Jessica's face had gone pale. Marcus approached me, gripping my shoulder. You should have called me directly when this happened, David. Relationships matter. Standing abruptly, Jessica's chair screeched against hardwood. This is orchestrated, a coordinated attack. You can't possibly... That's enough. Margaret cut her off, nodding to the security guard who had quietly appeared. We'll continue this discussion after you've been escorted to HR to process your immediate termination. Jessica's face contorted with rage. You have no idea who you're dealing with. My father chairs 3 boards with your major investors. This won't end here. As security led her away, Margaret turned to me with an expression I couldn't read, relief mixed with calculation. David, would you mind waiting outside while the board deliberates? This won't take long. Marcus caught my eye. Whatever they offer, he whispered. Remember, Blackstone's doors are always open. The heavy door clicked shut behind me, leaving me alone in the hallway. Through the thick wood, I could hear muffled voices, some raised, some urgent. After 17 years of loyalty, my future rested with people who had allowed this to happen. My phone buzzed a text from my wife. How's it going? Should I open the champagne or prepare for the worst? Before I could respond, another message appeared from Tommy. Everyone's watching for your return. Jessica's office is being emptied by security right now. The boardroom door suddenly swung open. Margaret's assistant appeared, her expression unreadable. They're ready for you. 112 minutes. That's how long I sat in Margaret's waiting area, watching assistants scurry past with worried faces. Long enough to second-guess every choice that led here. Long enough for fear to creep in alongside my determination. The massive doors finally opened. Margaret emerged alone, her usually perfect composure showing hairline cracks. David, please join me, she said, gesturing toward the executive terrace. Outside, spring sunshine warmed the rooftop garden Margaret had installed during my 3rd year with the company. Carefully maintained greenery surrounded Usher reminder of the Illinois farm where she grew up. The scent of honeysuckle drifted in the air as we stood silently overlooking the city. Jessica was a mistake, she finally said, eyes fixed on the skyline. A costly one. I waited, knowing Margaret never rushed important conversations. The board spent the last hour in intense discussion. A slight smile touched her lips. That's diplomatic language for absolute chaos. About me? I asked quietly. About everything. About how we missed the warning signs. about how 17 years of dedication should be honored, not punished. She faced me directly. Half the board wants to simply restore your position with appropriate compensation for recent difficulties. And the other half, I asked, noting her careful phrasing. The other half worries about precedent, about appearances and shareholder reactions. Margaret sighed. Corporate thinking at its finest. My stomach clenched. So where does that leave me? Margaret handed me a folder I hadn't noticed her carrying. With a third option, my option. Inside was an organizational chart unlike anything I'd seen at Apex. At the top, directly under Margaret herself, was a new position, Chief Revenue Officer, overseeing both sales and client relations sessionally, commanding half the company's operations. We've lost our way, David. Margaret's voice carried rare vulnerability. Somewhere between quarterly earnings and market expansion, we forgot what made Apex special. She touched the folder gently. You never forgot. My mind raced the possibilities, the challenges, the sheer magnitude of what she was offering. Why me? I asked, genuinely puzzled. After everything that's happened, because of everything that's happened, Margaret replied. You stood your ground ethically when surrender would have been easier. You protected other employees by documenting the pattern, not just your own treatment. And most impressive, her eyes sparked with something like pride. You maintained client relationships even after termination. Marcus called me personally yesterday, livid about losing you. The offer was staggering, the salary, the authority, the chance to reshape company culture, yet something held me back. There's more, I said, reading her tense posture. She nodded slowly. The board wants you to sign an NDA regarding Jessica and her termination. Everything would be attributed to organizational restructuring in public statements. Understanding hit like a weight in my chest. So she faces no real consequences. She'll land at another company and repeat the same pattern. Her father sits on boards with 3 of our major investors. Margaret acknowledged, frustration evident. Corporate politics. The choice crystallized. Extraordinary career advancement versus the principle that had driven my fight. What would you do? I asked. She considered seriously. 20 years ago, I would have told them to go to hell and started my own company. Her expression softened. But today, I understand that sometimes real change happens from within. Sometimes you must be in the room where decisions are made. My phone vibrated Tommy's message. All hands meeting announced for tomorrow morning. Everyone's panicking. Margaret watched me read. One more thing, she said, casual tone belying intense eyes. Whatever you decide, the meeting starts at 9 a.m. tomorrow. I'd appreciate your attendance. I glanced at the organizational chart again, noticing a crucial detail. This plan eliminates 3 executive positions. Margaret's slight smile confirmed my suspicion. The board members who supported Jessica. Sometimes pruning ensures healthy growth. As we walked back inside, I caught my reflection in the glass door still wearing the same determined expression from when I'd left Apex with my belongings in a box. But something fundamental had shifted. I need tonight to decide, I said finally. Margaret nodded, extending her hand formally. Of course. But David, she paused, her grip firm. Sometimes opportunities like this don't come twice. As the elevator doors closed between us, my phone lit up again unknown number. This isn't over. You have no idea what's coming for you in Apex. Jay. I stared at the threat, emotions warring inside me. Fear, anger, determination, and beneath it all, a strange clarity forming. By the time I reached the lobby, my decision was made. The gleaming Apex Solutions logo caught the morning light as I stepped through the revolving doors, my reflection multiplying in the polished surfaces. A secret recording burned in my pocket, Jessica's voice clearly threatening to make examples of anyone loyal to me, evidence that would change everything. Conversations hushed as I crossed the lobby. Eyes tracked my movement, then quickly looked away. Something had shifted overnight. Tension crackled in the air. Did you get the email? Tommy grabbed my arm, pulling me aside. His voice dropped to a whisper. 3 board members flew in last night. Emergency session until 4 a.m. Security escorted someone out. People think it was Steven from legal. My pulse accelerated. Steven had been helping Jessica manipulate performance reports. That's not all, Tommy continued, checking for eavesdroppers. Margaret canceled her keynote in London. She never cancels international conferences. And the auditorium they've been setting up since dawn. The elevator revealed a company in upheaval. Groups clustered in corners, conversations dying as we passed. Even veteran executives looked shaken, clutching coffee with white knuckles, obsessively checking phones. "I heard they're eliminating the entire Midwest division," whispered Sarah from product development. "Jessica has a hit list." Tommy squeezed my shoulder. "Whatever happens in there, the whole team's got your back." The auditorium doors loomed, already swarmed by anxious employees. Inside, the space usually reserved for celebrations had been transformed. The stage where we'd once toasted record quarters now held a single podium, stark under harsh lighting. Front row seats displayed name, Cars Board members, executives, legal counsel, and there, impossible to miss, my name centered directly before the podium. "What's this about?" I breathed. "Look," Tommy pointed to the side entrance. Marcus Blackstone entered, followed by representatives from our 5 largest clients. Their expressions were granite hard, determined. Behind them, 2 journalists I recognized from the business section slipped in, recording devices ready. This isn't just internal, I realized. 9 o'clock struck, the doors sealed with finality. Margaret Reeves emerged from backstage, her commanding presence somehow amplified. 6 board members flanked her, expressions unreadable. "For 25 years, Margaret began, her voice filling every corner. Apex Solutions has built its reputation on 2 pillars, innovation and integrity." The massive screen behind her displayed our mission statement. Yesterday at 5:23 p.m., evidence was presented to this board that shattered both pillars. The room fell silent, 200 people frozen in anticipation. Systematic age discrimination against senior employees, falsified performance metrics, deliberate sabotage of client relationships. Each accusation accompanied by slides displaying evidence emails, doctor reports, message screenshots, evidence of a coordinated campaign to purge our most experienced staff and replace them with inexperienced loyalists. My documentation, all of it, displayed for everyone to see. When I founded this company in my apartment 25 years ago, I made a vow Apex would be different. Margaret's voice caught with emotion. Yesterday, I discovered how catastrophically I failed that promise. She stepped away from the podium, moving to the stage edge, suddenly more human than executive. The board deliberated through the night. After reviewing all evidence, we unanimously terminated 3 executives, effective immediately. The screen revealed 3 names. Jessica's topped the list. Gasps rippled through the audience. Tommy gripped my arm, nails digging in the skin. "But accountability must begin at the top," Margaret continued. "As founder and chair, this organization's culture is ultimately my responsibility." She paused, scanning the room with deliberate slowness. "Today, I'm announcing my transition to an advisory role." The shock was physical, a tsunami of disbelief. Margaret stepping down? Inconceivable. Apex needs leadership that embodies our founding principles while driving innovation. Someone who understands our legacy but will fight for our future. Her eyes found mine. My throat closed. "David Chen, would you please join me on stage?" Time slowed. Each step echoed in the sudden silence. Faces blurred, some shocked, some tearful, some nodding approval. When I reached Margaret, she clasped my hands, then passed me the microphone. The weight was immense of the device of expectations of everything. 200 colleagues watching, client representatives evaluating, board members judging every word. 3 months ago, I began, voice steadier than my racing heart. I witnessed behavior that violated everything Apex represents. I had 2 choices: leave quietly or fight for the company I love. The projector switched to new image as a sales team, celebrating last year's industry recognition, client testimonials, graphs showing 17 years of growth. I chose to fight because I believe in what we've built together, what we can still become. From the corner of my eye, I saw Marcus nodding, a slight smile on his face. "I accept this position with one condition." I turned to Margaret, then back to my colleagues. "Complete transparency about what happened here. External review of all terminations under previous leadership. Full restitution for those wrongfully dismissed." Margaret stepped forward. "The board has already approved these conditions." She extended her hand. We shook and applause erupted, tentative at first, then building to thunderous intensity. As the noise continued, my phone vibrated. Unknown number. I glanced down. A text from Jessica. You have no idea what you've done. This isn't over. I know people who can destroy your career with one phone call. Margaret noticed my expression change. Problem? I showed her the message. Her eyes hardened. Forward that to legal, she said quietly. We'll add it to the restraining order. As we turned back to the audience, Tommy caught my eye from the front row. He pointed subtly toward the back. There, slipping out the side door, Paula from HR, phone pressed to her ear, face ashen. The same Paula who had always defended Jessica, the same Paula with access to every personnel file in the company. Margaret tapped the microphone, regaining attention. We have much to discuss about Apex's future. But first, a security announcement. At her signal, IT security appeared at each exit. Effective immediately, all executive passwords have been reset. Building access has been temporarily restricted, and our security team is currently securing sensitive data. Her gaze lingered meaningfully on Paula's empty seat. Now, Margaret smiled, turning to me. Shall we begin? The audience rose in renewed applause, but my mind raced ahead. This victory was just the opening move. Somewhere beyond these walls, Jessica and her allies were already plotting revenge, and I had just become their primary target.